quite understandable if you're torturing an American citizen. You want to totally erase them and hope it's going to go away.
Not even a record of a driver's license.
That's right. No record of my driver's license. I was there 11 years. There was no record at all. No record. No record of the incident. No record of my incarceration. No record of anything. And that's why it's so funny that 7 years later, this magical unsigned document appears. It's just it's a form. It's just a form. It's not even a letter. It's just a form with a couple of ticks here and there and an X here and there. And it's unsigned, and, okay, here it is. Mr. Loper waived his rights. Oh, okay. It's unsigned, but we talked to him about it.
Well, Scott, one of the things, too, that is important about this document is if our government wanted to just say that you were making it up, that you're crazy, there's just no record, period, the story probably would have died at that point.
Yeah.
But to give, the majority leader of the House of Representatives a copy of an unsigned document dated 3 years after the initial incarceration, well, somebody's covering this up. And to give us that was, if you really are going to be slick and be a government that is going to cover this up, you wouldn't, I can't imagine that they would have ever left that out. And that was their blunder because as we've notified Congressman Hoyer's chief of staff, a man by the name of Terry Learman, they've actually created more questions than they've provided answers.
Right.
Like, how is this? After all these years of of just outright denial, now you give us something, and it's unbelievable.
Well, think about the implications, just for a moment. Think about picking up the Washington Post or your local big newspaper and reading that an American citizen was tortured in Canada. What American, tell me one that would not be outraged at this? And if Restore the Republic can get that done, I submit to you that you'll have more members than you could possibly handle. I can't imagine one American that wouldn't want to align themselves with an organization that brought the truth out about this matter. This is a blatant government cover-up. Blatant.
You've given me contact information for the Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs, Michelle Bond.
Yes.
Chief Western Hemisphere Division, U.S. State Department, Ken Dirksen.
Yes.
House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, his phone number, and his Chief of Staff, Terry Learman. House Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi, her phone number. So we're going to be putting this contact information out so that everybody can contact them and flood them. Probably not this week, but definitely next week we'll make it an action item for everybody to join in on.
Let me just tell your listeners what Mr. Dirksen said to me on the telephone about a month ago before he sent the letter to Steny Hoyer. This is the Chief Western Hemispheric Division of the State Department. Said, look, Mr. Loper, there's a lot more at stake here than you understand. The Bush administration enjoys a very good relationship with the Canadian government. We need their acquiescence on a wide variety of issues. This simply is not going to be pursued. I said, Mr. Dirksen, what about my son? He hung up.
And it's all true. That was all confirmed through their diplomatic security service.
Yeah.
I have Andrew in Toronto says, I'm a Canadian Libertarian Party candidate. I live in Toronto and would like more information on the officers involved in this particular incident. I've always had a big distaste for the OPP because they're overpaid, power-hungry crooks. Are there any names, badge numbers, etc. of the officers? I would like to look into this case further.
Yes, if he could send his contact information to me, I'll fax him the newspaper articles of the OPP investigation into the Durham Regional Police. It was all dropped. All of it was dropped and buried. And if he is a Canadian politician, then he certainly knows about the drug dealing, about police beating up drug dealers, stealing their drugs, and so many other crimes that have gone nowhere in the Canadian court system. Let me tell you. Let me give you a quick example.
The other thing too is, and don't forget too that he'll be able to confirm the transfer of many of these officers who were involved in your case.
That's right. They were all transferred, and that's right. And they're still working. But let me give you a quick example. You're a drug dealer, and you have criminal cops that burst in and they arrest you with 12 ounces of cocaine. But when you go to court, the judge says, "Okay, I'm getting ready to sentence you on 2 ounces of cocaine." He doesn't say, "Excuse me, Your Honor, but I had 12." The other 10 ounces were stolen by the police and sold through their protected drug dealer, and they split the profit. So this went on and on and on. No drug dealer is going to say he had more drugs than he had. Like, thank God you're only sentencing me on 2 ounces and not 12. I had hundreds of hours of surveillance tape on this, hundreds of hours. And that is why they tortured me.
Scott, I have a question here. Someone says they came in late because of the site overload. They want to know what you were held for in Canada, and maybe you could also say talk a little bit about the prison that no longer exists that you were held in.
Yes. I was held on a violation of court order. They originally detected my surveillance devices and came into my home and arrested me and took me to a mental facility for a 3-day evaluation because I was telling wild stories about police dealing drugs. They took my wife and son away. They ransacked my home and found my audio tapes. But when my wife was supposed to come and pick me up, the doctors found nothing wrong with me. Dr. Sangarupin at the hospital, who can be interviewed, said, "Look, Mr. Loper, this is a hospital, not a hotel. You have to go." So I called my wife to come and get me. She didn't come and get me. Instead, a man came and served me with a restraining order and said, "You're not allowed to see your wife, talk to your wife, or communicate with your wife in any way." I had never had an argument or a fight with my wife in 9 years. I called her up and I said, "Sweetheart, what's going on?" She yells into the phone, "Scotty, I love you with all my heart, but they'll take Eddie away." And hung up, or somebody hung up. Eddie was our 3-year-old son. That was the last time I heard from her. That was it. So the police had obviously gotten to her and threatened to do some pretty horrible things to her. A CBC News up in Canada, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, began an investigation into this as well. And they have police informants. They have people inside the police department who told me that, and these people will not come forward in fear of their life, They will not come forward. But they were told that the police had threatened, the Durham Regional Police had threatened they told my wife they would put drugs in her home, say she was, a drug dealer and lock her up. And I think any woman that's a mother out there, when the police hold a badge in your face, the police represent the most powerful, that badge represents the most powerful symbol in our society, let's face it. It does. And then when they are telling you that they are going to take away your child or your children unless you cooperate, I believe any mother is going to cooperate. And that's exactly what happened in my case.
Okay. I got someone here, Exie in Little Rock, says, "I'm behind you 100%. First email to Glenn. Just wrote Glenn at glennbeck.com. So we got some support there.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Someone asked, how old would your son be now? I think you said, 10 or 11?
11, yes. He was 3 when they took him. 3.
We actually prefer that everybody contact the Western Hemisphere Division Chief, Ken Dirksen, at his office. and demand that they further investigate this situation.